Hey kids, this is Aaron from the podcast that wouldn't die, and Kevin and I use Zencastr. You think you're better than us, that you're using something else? You're wrong. Zencastr's the place to be. Who are you to deny it?
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. If you thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code DIEHARD and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time for you to share your story.
Only a fool will give up a chance for a 30% discount.
In the world of Niratova, forgotten gods have made themselves known. A darkness creeps across the land, and a skeleton army has posed to push the mortals away. All that stands between them are the heroes of What the Dice, streaming weekly on all major platforms. You can also follow us at What the Dice Pod on Twitter.
Norman Bates is judged, restored to sanity, and is ordered released forthwith.
It's 22 years later, and Norman Bates is coming home.
I own a motel not too far from here, and you'd be welcome to spend the night in one of the empty rooms if you'd like. Good night, Mary.
And he's back in business.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey.
Okay. This week,
I threw down already.
I guess. This week, we're discussing the horror classic, Psycho 2. Not the original Psycho. I know you got a little excited there. Psycho 2.
I swear to you, you told me we were doing Psycho, and then at the last minute, you're like, 2. Because I don't think we ever did Psycho.
We didn't, and we need to do it at some point. Starring Anthony Perkins, Meg Tilly, Robert Loggia, Dennis Franz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no matter where the movie takes place, if Franz is in it, you're getting Chicago Dennis Franz. No matter what.
Don't matter where.
It don't matter where, okay? It's going to be Dennis Franz. Anyway.
First of all, that is not Dennis Franz.
That's as good as it gets, baby.
I'm not even sure who you're channeling at that moment right there.
Just shut the damn airport down, huh? That's Dennis Franz as well. Each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre with a comedic twist. Aaron, what's up with you? What's the latest?
Oh, I'm trying to clean. I don't know. For those of you watching on the YouTube, there's always piles of hoarder chaos behind me, and I am trying to organize that. I know you can't believe this. I have so much shit. And I would pay someone if they knew what I was really into to go do this for me. Because okay. I have self-diagnosed myself with the help of TikTok that I clearly have ADHD. Clearly. Because I organize by piles. And
your room looks very organized. It's clearly ADHD. Anyone can see that. It looks more like the mom from Longlegs up in there, if I'm being honest.
Exactly. This is I am Nick Cage, and I'm building dolls in the back. I do have like a crazy, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, it's sleeping here. This is a mannequin head here.
Oh, lovely.
I put a one of those things you put on people, not a do-rag, but one
A turban?
to hold your curlers, a turban, because somebody cut Vivian's hair off. So it's one of those.
Someone?
It's not me, but it's one of those beauty school heads, and someone wrote with a bleeding Sharpie, Vivian. So I had to.
That sounds like
her.
a horror movie. What are we doing?
I was going to use it for photography, for still life, but it didn't work out. So now Vivian's here to scare would-be burglars. I'm going to put her in the window so she's always watching. Like Anthony
Norman
Perkins'
Bates.
mom.
But is it his mom? Or is it his aunt,
Mom.
adopted mother?
Who knows? Who knows? It's a full-fledged freak out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't know if I told you this. I discovered to my horror that instead of going back to school on the 28th, like I assumed, we're going back on the 23rd.
Still,
So,
a whole week longer than I said the fly. Tragically.
wah, wah. It's always the pits. It's a sad
Yeah.
situation. So
I keep buying those lottery tickets, Kevin. Why doesn't God want me to retire? Why is he
I don't know.
insisting that I continue to work for a living?
well, you've said you will have to work until you drop dead one day.
Yes,
Behind
I
the
already
desk.
told I've told the students forever that I'll be here when you bring your kids to back to school night. When you'll swing by with your grandchildren. I'll be here. I
So just in a few short years.
Come up with her walker, and I will say, I remember you, Juan. You were a rascal.
You were a rascal. Absolutely. No. I plan to retire, approaching 60. So I still have like another 10 years. So we'll see. Such is life.
Oh, good. So we'll be retiring about the same time.
I mean, it's the dream. It's the dream,
It's
obviously.
the dream.
Good Lord. Go ahead.
I was going to bring up something about your family that perhaps you may not want me to bring up. So
Okay, so then let's not. Anywho, why don't you give us your 30-second synopsis of Psycho 2?
Psycho 2 spends the first 20 minutes showing us excerpts of Psycho 1. How about that? Basically, he's released because they declared him mad as a hatter, and his crazy shower scene victim's sister shows up to protest him being let out because he's sane now, and he meets a girl at the diner. He's super creepy and needy, and she's like, okay, I'm down with that, and we're going to live together, and I'm going to take care of you. Reveal that's the Loomis daughter. It's the niece of the woman, one of the women he killed. And she and her mom are trying to make him go crazy. But guess what? The minute he walked into the house, he was already crazy. Guess what? He gets it over on all of them. The end.
This movie, man. I mean, I'll tell you true. I remember, honestly, in my childhood, I had a greater connection to the Psycho sequels than I did to the original Psycho movie, because these were the movies that were coming into theaters
Right.
in my childhood. Now, I never had seen Psycho 2 before. I knew very little. You've seen this before.
I didn't realize it until I saw Tilly walk in, and I was like, oh, yes. But where I saw it, I can't remember.
You don't. I had no recollection.
Probably a rental, I'm guessing.
I think I read somewhere going in that's like they're trying to make Norman crazy. I think I knew something along those lines, but I couldn't remember exactly who was doing it and who was the killer. Like, for the longest time, I'm like, it can't be Norman.
Right.
That's too easy. It's too easy. So if it's not Norman, so I thought it was this doctor.
And there's another woman in the house. There's another person in the house. You're going to notice if people are being murdered, even in a big house.
Even in a big
I got to
house.
say. You're going to hear some
cellar.
screaming. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
And why does Norman have a fruit cellar full of baskets of apples when he's one person living there?
and
Or
how
we
long has that
assume-
shit been there?
Yeah,
That shit's
are
been
we
there for
assume
20
the
years.
basket of apples have been staying fresh for 20 years since he got taken away into the crazy wagon?
I mean, I wrote this down. When he invites Mary over, literally the first day he's been released, he's pulling some tea bags out of the cup. I'm like, how old is that shit? That shit's been sitting there for 20 years.
Well, you notice he immediately reached for the poison tea bags first, and then
Did we
changed his
know
mind.
those were poison
We didn't
did
know
we-
those were the poison ones until the end.
until the end? Right. Then there did seem to be significance to it. You're right. He grabbed for one box and was like, I love how he has a pack of poison tea bags.
It's
He
all
just-
set and ready to go, even though he killed his mother when he was like 8. So I don't know. Hopefully some of the bounce has gone out of it, but apparently not.
Apparently not. No, this movie, I talked about it on the last episode. This was one of the first legacy sequels, although they didn't call it at the time. Because typically, movies didn't have sequels. You know, for most of Hollywood history, there wasn't a thing called sequels. You know, just one story, we're done with that story, we're moving on to something else. Then James Bond came around, and then they go, okay, well, now we're the continuing adventures of this particular character. But obviously by the late 70s, then people started to have like more and more sequels. They were everywhere. Like sequels were a thing. Like
Alfred Hitchcock was not making sequels
Oh, hell no.
or
Hell to the no.
prequels.
No.
Because back in the old days, they tried to come up with original ideas.
Shocking.
Shocking.
And I was reading about Anthony Perkins. When he did Psycho in 1960, he was horribly typecast.
Yes.
After that, he was considered kind of a teen idol leading into this, like a handsome.
No, Mommy loved him. Mom loved him because we always used to watch movies about tall people, large families, and nuns. And he was in a movie called Tall Story. And Mother loved him. And he had long eyelashes and soulful brown eyes.
Right. Well, but he was a handsome guy. But he had to leave. He had to start filming shit in Europe.
Yeah.
Because he was so typecast. And even when he
Good for
came
him.
back.
Smart enough to do that instead of crying to yourself.
Pretty much. But when he came back, they still kind of threw crazy psycho shit at him.
Well, that was after he went through his gay conversion and married a lady and now had kids and needed to start paying bills.
That is the craziest shit that I uncovered on this.
Not only is this the craziest shit, it's crazier than this movie.
Yes.
His son directed Longlegs.
Correct.
I mean, you can't get crazier than that shit. I was looking up his son, and it was this whole thing about his dad, and how that influenced some of the stuff going on in Longlegs, and whoosh.
No, Anthony Perkins, like, people knew he was gay, like gay.
He had like never been with a woman.
He was with the woman for the first time. I literally know this. When he was 39 years old. It was Victoria Principal on the set of The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean with Paul Newman at 39. Crazy. You're right. We're going to talk about this for 20 minutes.
We're going to talk about this for 20. And they say it's because his mother was a molester and had molested him and inappropriately touched him even into his adulthood. So when he thought of women, he was physically ill.
Right.
But he was sleeping with everybody in Hollywood. He was a hot ticket.
Absolutely. I mean, he like literally he was a handsome guy, and female co-stars would like try to put moves on him, and he'd be like, "No, thanks.
Pass.
Thanks. Hard pass.
Rock Hudson, come over here. Let me sit on your lap."
Right.
Rock Hudson.
Tab Hunter.
Yeah,
that was the big one. That was the big one.
That was a long relationship.
He was not bisexual.
No.
He was homosexual. He was gay. He was gay. But he had depression. He had things going on, and there was some self-help book that convinced him that a lot of his sadness was because of his sexuality. A lot of the issues that he was having So he was referred to this, and she was a psychiatrist who subjected him to this gay conversion therapy, which he says
his boyfriend. They both
him and his boyfriend at the time both did it. Both married women within like weeks of each other. I don't know what happened with the other guy, but Anthony Perkins was married to this woman until the day he died. 1972 until 1992.
I mean, we don't know all the ins and outs or whatever if they had an open relationship, but that is insane.
Crazy.
That, I mean, don't understand.
Well, and it was funny.
I get the idea of now I have this kind of normal, quote unquote, now I have kids, but I just don't see how that could be fulfilling.
No.
I mean, it's for sure happened before. Elton John got married. Liberace almost got married. There's all these people. But God, I don't know how you could sustain that.
Right. Well, oftentimes it happens like earlier in your life where you're trying to put a heterosexual foot forward.
Right.
But usually later in life, you're kind of like, hey, I've come to accept who I am and I'm going to just be my authentic self. That's not what happened here.
Not the other way around. Not the other way around. People were shocked.
Yes.
His longtime friends were like, what?
Yes.
And after his death, they came out and they said this therapy was monstrous.
Oh, yeah. People said it at the time. They're like, this is a crime against humanity.
Yeah. I mean,
good Lord.
The story behind the story is crazier than anything else because he was a good-looking guy,
handsome devil. Yeah,
he was depressed. But everybody liked him. He was an interesting guy, but they also said nobody really knew him completely. I don't know what that means.
Alfred Hitchcock liked him.
Alfred Hitchcock, who hates everybody.
Right.
Alfred Hitchcock tortured maybe he just tortures the ladies, but for years they were hanging out. There was a place for him at dinner at the Hitchcocks.
Absolutely, everybody loved him. Everybody thought he was great.
Yeah,
it is wild. Anyway, that being said, let's get this train back on the tracks. Right. Why don't we get started on the highlights? What you got for Psycho 2?
How come the motel after 20 years looks exactly the same? It's not vandalized. There's nothing wrong with it except some poppers that he finds in one of the rooms. And people having sex in the next room.
That was the funniest thing. So evidently when he was sent to the asylum, the hospital hired Dennis Franz from Chicago, evidently, to take over management of the hotel.
They paid relocation. They shipped over, gave him a bonus.
They used headhunters to track down. Yeah. And he quickly turns it into what they call a good time hotel. So, which means like Perkins quickly finds like drugs in the trash and you hear the loud sounds of women's laughter in the background. It's like a brothel. I mean, people rent by the hour is essentially.
People can't be happy at a motel. I mean, let's be straight. Nobody was staying at that hotel. That is the only way you're going to make any money with the don't ask, don't tell situation and a whole cleaning staff. That's all you can do. That's
what Franz says. He's like, it's the only way I can keep this place open. Because in the first movie, they established that they built the hotel and it was right next to the highway, so it got a lot of business from that. And then something happened, a freeway was built 14 miles away or whatever, so no one used this road as much anymore. And
the same thing happened in my town. Right. Union Avenue used to be how you got from Northern California to Southern California, and then they built the I-5 40 miles away. So all those hotels and restaurants went out of business. They're all dead, Bates motels. So, I mean, honestly, you're renting a hotel room. You don't ask what people are going to be doing in there.
But it seems like he's kind of, publicizing it for that use. Like he
I
wants
think you
people
only
to use it that way.
to publicize it. It's a small town. You tell 3 or 4 people. That's all
That's
you
true.
need to do. It's on the dark web. It's either that or you're renting it out to poor people.
Oh, interesting.
I
That
mean, you lower
choice.
it down, but I'm sure you're going to get a lot more money from the people who need to boink and shoot up. So just have your
Shoot up.
Narcon standing by.
I
It's
loved
an
it.
opium den / I don't know,
Well,
high school hangout.
Norman Bates, who just was released from the insane asylum for murdering 7 people, walks in with the moral high ground. Is this drugs? You're fired. This is not that kind of establishment. Bro, you murdered someone over here.
It's that
What are
kind
you
of establishment, but there were
It's
no
a murder hotel. God damn it. No, this look, obviously people may not know this. Our dad was a lawyer for many years. He was a judge for many years. I don't know shit about the law. Is this how it works? If
I've
you're
seen
found-
enough TV that
Lay it
I
on
feel
me.
I am a lawyer.
You know the shit. If
I
you're
know this
found
shit.
If you are found, okay, they try you for murders of 7 people, they keep saying, but they find you not guilty for reason of insanity.
Right.
If later you're cured of your insanity, then they're just like, okay, you're good. Walk out.
You go to court.
Yes.
The doctors present, and it's
Yes.
still up to the judge to decide. Yeah.
So it isn't like, who gives a shit? You still murdered 7 people? I mean, maybe you don't go to the pen, you go to the insane asylum forever, but I don't know. I'm asking.
It
I'm
really,
asking questions.
it really depends. It really depends. Like the Manson kids, they ain't getting out. Don't matter what.
Well, they're in jail. They're not
They
in the
are.
insane asylum. There was no not guilty for reason of insanity. They were
pretty
guilty
insane.
for.
They were pretty insane, though.
They were insane.
They were
Well-
guilty by reason of insanity.
100%. No, but what I kept thinking of, you're Norman Bates.
Yes.
Everybody knows your story in this small ass town.
Right.
Are you really going to go live in your own house and, manage that same hotel and mingle amongst the people and everybody knows you're a serial killer? A reformed
all,
serial killer?
I mean, it's not even that. He has nowhere else to go.
I guess
But-
that's true.
To me, he would be unprepared. It's been 20 years. Life is totally different. It seems like you would have to go to the halfway house, but that's what they do in prison. You're released. Here's a one-way bus ticket. You figure it out after that.
Well, even Robert Loggia, his doctor's like, damn, there isn't enough social workers with all these budget cuts, Norman. I'm sorry about that.
That's
my
right.
Robert Loggia.
Is that California? Yeah. California budget cuts. So we're just going to abandon you back in your old crazy town.
And I was like,
And no one's going to be checking in with you but me, who's here every other day.
well, I was wondering about that. No more sessions with the doctor? Norman, you're kind of like, okay, you're good. I mean, you were in...
Nickel.
Again, I don't know how this works. These are important questions. The other question
And
I
we
had...
do need to talk about Robert Loggia's head, because he is
Please.
using hair in a can, right? You
He-
can see the hair, but the flesh is clearly much darker on the top of the head, which isn't normally the case.
He's an interesting fellow. He's been in a ton of stuff.
He's had that same hairdo
Same
for
hairstyle.
1,000 years.
And it's like, oftentimes it's like red hair, which I find fascinating for a man of his age. Like this red, he's at least 75 in this movie with like kind of carrot top level red hair. I mean,
I thought it
but
was
you're
more
right.
Auburn.
Maybe
It's
it was
hair
Auburn.
in a can. It's hair in a can.
It's definitely a little thinner through this area. No question. No question.
But it's
Something's
not
going on.
facial tan. It is the flesh is the color of your hair.
Yes.
But you know it's not hair because you can see the
You can see the
bits
shiny
and
scalp.
pieces. You can see the shiny scalp. So,
Correct.
but he
Correct.
has rocked that hair in the can since I think he's been 50. For 10,000 years, his hair has not changed.
Have you seen him in anything where he's been younger than 50? I have no idea what he's...
He's one of those people who just was hatched out of an egg at 45.
Totally. Totally. And he's great. I like him a lot. But I always feel he's kind of sinister in things, just there's something sinister about him, which means when he's in this movie, I'm like, oh, well, he must be a murderer too. He must be a murderer. But
no, this was his big breakthrough where he was going to be the good guy. But I've seen him as a good guy. He's not always a bad guy.
No, you're right. He's done all sorts of things. He's done all sorts. I gotta
Google that shit now.
His hair?
No,
going to be a website. Another thing that was interesting is they brought back Vera Miles.
He was in Big.
Yeah, he was. He owned the toy company that Tom Hanks works for. Yeah, he's great. He's done a ton of stuff. He's great. So Vera Miles played Lila Crane in the first movie. She was the sister of Marion Crane, who was Janet Leigh, who was Norman's first victim in that movie.
And clearly married her sister's boyfriend after her body was. Yes.
She did.
And he was a good-looking guy, so, you know.
John Gavin.
Yes.
John Gavin was Sam Loomis in the first movie. And you're right. Marion Crane was having an illicit affair. Now, they called it an affair, although neither one of them were involved with other people. It was just an affair because...
And a love affair because they were unmarried.
They were, right. They had to meet, in a hotel, much like the Bates Motel, a good time hotel, to shack up for...
Maybe Dennis Franz knew her from back in the day.
Maybe. So she's back. She wants her revenge against Norman Bates because... her sister was murdered along with multiple other people.
But her revenge was just to make him crazy so he has to go back.
This is the stupidest. This is the stupidest play. It's like, we're going to trick you into thinking you're crazy. So they're leaving notes around the house. Mother, get rid of that whore or whatever. And they're like making up the bedroom to look like Mother still lives there and then putting the room back. So he's like, well, I must be going crazy. Phone calls going, it's Mother, Norman. And then what? Right? I mean, just hope that the people walk in while he's gibbering, or wait till he murders somebody. Go, look, he murdered someone. Put him back in prison.
First of all, he was already crazy. Within 3 seconds of entering the house, he was already on the edge. It didn't take anything. You could have just blew at and the crazy.
It's hard. I'll say this. There were moments in the beginning of the movie where he seemed a little twitchy, much like the protagonist of Longlegs, where it's just like, is he crazy or is he just kind of strange and awkward? Like literally he's making a sandwich and she's like, he's going to cut the sandwich in two, but he can't bring himself to use the knife. Like it's too great of an attempt. If he picks up the knife to cut the sandwich in two, then it's going to cause a problem.
Okay, first of all,
I left all the silverware somewhere else. I can't do that.
Why do I need a butcher knife to cut my bologna sandwich? And since there is no knife out, is there no mayonnaise, no mustard? This is just an old dry bread with a piece of green bologna. I mean, when did he go grocery shopping? Is this also 20-year-old bologna from the Ritz cellar?
This is some green eggs and ham shit. Yeah, he. That's the best part. Robert Loggia brings him to his house, the fucking Bates house. Walks in. The place is got to be dusty and mildewy. There's no like montage of him cleaning up the house or doing grocery shopping or anything like that.
It would take at least a week for like a team of 10 people. And God forbid in 20 years, rats, the roof, it's already an old like Victorian house. And then blink!
Right. You need a hazmat team and there were flamethrowers. That place would be a goddamn...
Old 20-year-old cans down in the root cellar and polishing the apples.
Well, and that's the thing. Even Dennis Franz is like, teenagers break into your root cellar and do their business all the time as well. So that place would be a nightmare as well. That place would be a goddamn hellhole.
Yeah. It would have been a shite hole, for sure.
It would be a nightmare.
Stolen. Kids are busting up the furniture to make a fire.
Absolutely.
Because they can't afford the Bates Motel because Dennis Franz charges $10 an hour.
Right. Exactly. He didn't like the competition. No, it's So let me ask you this. This is the other crazy thing. So Norman is out of the psycho house. Sorry, the insane asylum, so as not to cause confusion. And he owns a hotel, which it's pulling in money. He must have some kind of money and, and savings from that, right?
Right.
But his doctor's like, remember, you have to start working at the diner at noon. Why? If he has this place, why does he also have to work at the diner? Can you answer this?
That is a good question that no one asks.
Yes.
Like when he invites old Meg, who's having a problem with her boyfriend, why doesn't she turn to him and be like, why are you making minimum wage working at a diner when you own a motel?
Right. Because he says it. Oh, I just own this motel. And it's just kind of, it literally is like a slap in the face. You're like, what? Then why are you working as the cook's helper chopping lettuce at the local Greasy Spoon?
And
Makes
how
no
can he chop
cheese.
lettuce, but he can't cut a bologna sandwich?
I kept thinking he was going to chop his fingers off. When Dennis Franz comes in there and starts causing a ruckus, he's in there chopping, but he's not watching what he's doing. He's just staring at Franz. I'm like, it's going to be a bad situation.
I love how nobody says anything. So Dennis Franz is obviously the bully of the county because everybody's like, oh, Lord. And they start,
can I get some service here? What do I got to do to get some service? You let that psycho work there? I'm not eating this food, but where's my service? No, it's so. And Meg,
girl, what you doing?
Exactly. And it was. So he works at the diner, his first day at the diner, and Meg arrives as the waitress. So presumably, she's working there to meet Norman Bates.
Yeah,
right?
It's a setup. That's the only reason why she should be there. She looks like she's about 19. She's as small as a pixie.
Yep.
And she has her like little Tilly voice, and it was destiny.
I mean, Meg Tilly had a little bit of a run there in like the mid 80s. And then she kind of just fell off the map.
Yeah.
Jen Tilly's still doing stuff. Jennifer Tilly, now granted, it's Chucky on Sci-Fi Network, but she's still working. Meg Tilly, I haven't seen her since 87 or something.
Yeah, I was like, when this popped on, I'm like, oh, what happened to the Tilly sisters? They were like a thing.
It's a thing. But
she's interesting. She has a child by Colin Firth. Pride and Prejudice, brother. They were in a 5-year relationship where they each declared each other the loves of their lives.
And I guess their lives didn't last that long.
I guess no.
Wah, wah, wah. So she's planted there and is like having problems with her boyfriend. My boyfriend's kicking me out in order to elicit the reaction from Norman Bates. Because Norman Bates, in his twitchy way, is like, hey, why don't I give you a ride somewhere? Hey, why don't you come back to my hotel with me?
I have a hotel. So you can stay there. And then they get to the hotel, and he's like, go up to my house. She knows who the he is. Go up to my house. I'll handle this. I'd be like, no.
I'm not getting... Look, everybody knows who Norman Bates is, right?
Everybody. And then he like almost starts crying because she's like, this, I'm going over to my friend Sally's house in the town.
Please, I don't want to be alone.
Yes, and then he's like a 40-year-old man crying to a 19. I don't want to be alone. I'm scared. I was like,
and she stays, but she does put the chair in front of the door. I'm like, that was probably the smart move.
As you would, and ducks out of there before he even wakes up.
I mean, the thing about this plan is it only works if you think, it only makes sense if you think Norman Bates is really sane now, right?
Right.
If you think he's insane, then you don't have to do anything, right? Just wait.
Why would you risk your child?
Exactly.
For someone who's killed 7 people.
If you're trying to cause him to go crazy, putting your only child into harm's way to try to trick him into going crazy is the craziest plan I've ever heard of. It is nuts.
The problem with this movie is, I'm going to compare it to When a Stranger Calls.
Okay.
So when A Stranger Calls, it's the same kind of a situation. The killer gets released. He's done his time. And he's doing his best to try to like live a real life. But there's this detective who's pursuing him and pressures him until he finally breaks. That would have been better than bang. Norman was twitchy from the beginning. If he was like walking around like a real person, taking charge, not acting like a freak, and then they start with him, turning the screws until, because In a Stranger Calls, the beginning of the movie is horrifying. Yeah. But by the end of the movie, you feel sorry for the fucking killer.
Yeah, you do kind of. Because it's that thing where in that movie, he's like, look, I was a child murderer, but I'm just trying to get on with my life. I'm just trying to do the best I can.
I was crazy as can be, and I'm just, I'm not like that anymore. I'm just trying to live like a normal life, whatever I have left. Right. And it's like, no, we're gonna with you until
the detective was gonna like pursue him. Right, 100%.
He was never gonna be safe.
Well, what this movie is trying to accomplish is is he crazy from the beginning? Meaning, when he's hearing Mother talking on the phone, when he's seeing the notes. Is that him already doing shit? When he's looking up and seeing Mother in the window, is he already losing his shit? And then when the murders occur, is that Norman?
But I think we know it's not Norman. I think I feel like
but I think we're supposed to be
Norman. At first there was a question. The kids who sneak in, that's a question. But after that, you know where Norman is. So it can't be Norman.
I think you're supposed to suspect a little bit that it could be Norman who kills Dennis Franz, which I have to say is a hilarious death, because Dennis Franz in there packing up his laundry or suitcase, and then you see like the mother with the butcher knife coming up behind him, and then he turns around and it's clearly like a fake plastic face looking at it, and then he like stabs like the it was like claymation. Anyway.
Again, so like a 65, 70-year-old woman is killing Dennis Franz. Why didn't he just kick her?
What? Yes.
She'll fall down, break her hip.
So Dennis Franz is killed, and there's a question mark. When the boy is killed in the fruit cellar, we know that Norman Bates was locked in the attic. Okay? Right. But when Meg Tilly comes, suddenly the door's unlocked. So was it really locked the whole time? Right? So these are questions, right? Because somebody killed Dennis Franz and hid the body. Somebody killed that boy, cleaned up that shit, and that body is never found in the course of the movie. There's never a moment where like, oh shit, there's that boy's body. Although the toilet overflows.
Not in the coal pile. Right. We don't even know. And once again, we don't burn coal for heat in California.
But in Sunnyvale, they might. I might be crazy. I thought
this
Psycho.
Is Fairvale.
Fairvale?
A fictional town, yes. Because remember, she drives through Bakersfield. And then it's a fictional town. She's not in Sunnyvale up in the Bay Area. Because there's no coal mines in the Bay Area either.
I thought this took place in Arizona. I thought the first movie she's driving through the desert, but clearly I was wrong.
It did start in Arizona.
So she started in Arizona?
Yes.
And then drove into California?
And drove into California. She drove through Bakersfield, heading north.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
She was on that street that I talked about that was replaced by I-5. That was Union Avenue where they shot it.
And so when Lila Loomis, the older lady, comes in and she sneaks in the house, because I guess their plan all along was, we'll dress up like Norman's mother, we'll do all that shit until he goes crazy and snaps and then kill somebody again, and then kill somebody. Is that the hope? We catch him in the murderous act?
It's not very thought out.
No. She goes in there and like finds a disguise which they've hidden under a rock. I don't know why they had to hide it under a rock there. Why not just take it with you? That's neither here nor there. And she is killed by some other old lady right through the mouth. I was like, oh, Jesus, right through the back of her. I was like, that came out of nowhere. It was some shit.
That was rando.
It was, well, because a lot of it before that was just kind of like psycho implied violence. You see the knife go down, maybe a quick look of something, but that's
we
it.
Needed to get that R rating, you know, to bring the kids in, and that did.
Yeah. This was a Friday the 13th level murder at the stage of the game. Boom. And she goes and gurgles on it. So that was even more lovely. So that was great. And again, at that point, now we're starting to suspect maybe it is Norman, because it seemed like maybe he hit that body, but he didn't, did he? He didn't kill anybody until the end of the movie.
Correct. Which also made no sense to me.
Right. So, and that, I'll tell you one thing that I found kind of fascinating is that Meg Tilly, who's of course like all the people doing these kinds of movies, she's like, I can't do it anymore. He's too nice of a person. I can't hurt his feelings. I can't betray him anymore. Right. She has a change of heart. But by the end, she's like, you're fucking nuts. She's so afraid. Right. Way too late. She is so afraid she accidentally kills Robert Loggia, who's there to protect Norman, because he thinks correctly that she's there fucking with him.
Right.
He takes the knife, falls. That was the craziest shit.
Oh, God, the slow motion fall, and then you hit the stairs, and the knife has to go all the way in. Otherwise, he would have been fine if it wasn't just for that.
Correct. The banister hits him just right to drive the knife all the way through him, and that's the end of him. Crazy. And Anthony Perkins is like advancing on her, like, what are you doing? Give me the knife. And she keeps kind of cutting at him, slashing him,
poking him.
Right. Well, he grabbed the knife at one point, and she pulled it through his hand. I was like, and then when she discovers her mom's body in the coal, she's like, I'm gonna kill you now, and pulls up the knife and is about to get him. And of course, Quick Draw McGraw, the deputy, shows up and blows her away. I was like, that was a surprise ending for me. I was like, whoa, this took a turn. This took a turn.
Good job.
And everybody's like, and I love that. Everyone's like, oh, Norman, I'm sorry you had to be put through this.
Sorry, dude.
You're an innocent victim all the time. Bro, he still killed 7 people. Let's not he's not. Look, people shouldn't have been messing with him, but let's not act like he's Nelson Mandela being freed from prison or something. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
He is a reformed psychopath.
Up with a bow a little too nicely.
A little too nicely. Right. So anybody they find, because she was wearing the Norma Bates outfit and the wig and had the knife in the hand.
And apparently this is a dress you can buy anywhere, because like 12 people in this movie had the wig and the dress.
Absolutely. It's a popular Halloween costume.
Sears' finest.
Well, it's like in the Halloween movies, where in the frickin' town where Michael Myers kills all those people every year, there's 15 of those masks at the gas station for Halloween. It's like, really? We're selling these masks? Hey, how many people did he kill last Halloween? Anyway. But that, of course, that's the fake ending. That's the fake ending.
Fake ending. There was some jib jab that Mrs. Bates was not his real mother.
Right.
My real mother's coming.
Somebody kept calling, and we weren't sure if it was Lila Loomis or if it was just Norman's crazy delusions. Because they literally exhumed.
Meg Tilly was on the phone and couldn't hear another voice.
Well, and that's the question. Is it the real mother calls, and then when Meg Tilly picks up the phone, stops talking? I don't know. I don't know what the story is. But says that my real mother was not Norma Bates. My real mother is somebody else, but she won't tell me who she is. And as the end of the movie was progressing, and I saw Robert Loggia take the knife to the chest, I'm like, so he's not the killer. Who's left? And I was going through the cast.
Did you figure it out?
I figured it out, and it wasn't easy. It was not easy.
Yeah, she was way too nice to him at the diner.
Correct. It's the Christian thing to do.
She convinced the dude to hire him.
Correct. Mrs. Spools, the old woman who worked at the diner, convinced the boss to hire, like, there's a psycho kind of rehab thing where it's like, hey, come in and you can work for me. I don't know if there's some kind of government subsidy situation. I don't know what it is. So it was her idea. And they share a moment at the beginning where, don't you think that's the Christian thing to do, Norman, to give people a second chance? He's like, yes, I do, ma'am. And I think we see her a couple more times, once or twice.
Well, apparently we saw her a lot more. We just didn't realize it.
That's what it is. Because he quits after the showdown with Franz at the diner. He quits the diner, which I guess he could have just done anyway. I thought it was like a work release program or something. As
he's not in prison,
right? He was just doing it to make a little extra cash. I guess it was bizarre. We don't see her again for what? 45 minutes, at least, right? He's there eating. It was funny. He said that his mom used to make him toasted cheese sandwiches. And I kept going, what's a toasted cheese sandwich? It's a grilled cheese sandwich. Who calls it a toasted cheese sandwich? Is that a thing?
Is that a British thing? In California, we call it a grilled cheese.
Whatever the case may be. He makes himself a toasted cheese sandwich the way mom used to make it. And there's a knock at the door, and there's Mrs. Spools, which now all the pieces come together. And she says, yeah, I was a psychopath as well in my youth. And I had you out of wedlock. So my sister took the baby.
I was a whore, and I was crazy too. And maybe I killed 15 people. I'm not sure. My sister raised you.
So, and then it gets kind of strange. So Norm isn't like, ooh, a kindred spirit. We're just the same. We should live here in peace and harmony. No, he calmly goes and gives her the poisoned tea, which would have killed her anyway.
And he already knew she was coming. He was like, I wasn't sure who was coming, but I knew somebody was coming.
Yep. Poisons her. Now, does he do that because it's like, I can't believe all the murders you've convicted? No. Then he picks up the shovel. And it's still just kind of calmly talking to her. How's that tea? Whack! Bashes her upside the head with a shovel. And next scene is he's carrying her body up the stairs while he's having the conversation with Mother now.
Right. Now it's back to the old mother's voice. Which blows my mind because the whole point of him being crazy is that he feels so guilty about killing his crazy mother. So now he has a chance and then kills her. That made no sense to me. I wish it hadn't ended that way. Because Psycho 3, 2 psychos.
Right.
That would have been interesting. They should have been having tea together, and she'll say, would you like a toasted sandwich? Out. Camera out.
Right. Something like that. It was a bizarre, but I guess what they were trying to do is kind of reset it, where it's like, so when we do Psycho 3, which was their plan, it'll just be Norman doing psycho shit. We don't have to f*** around with this other, is he crazy, is he not? Now he can just be Freddy Krueger and Jason and do his shit. That's what it comes down to.
And it can't come in your dreams.
Right. Well, there's that. Right. But it is
not as good, I say. Not as good. I don't remember seeing Psycho 3, and I definitely did not see the reimagining, which was supposed to be a cut-by-cut version of the original Psycho, which didn't make any goddamn sense.
Oh, don't forget Psycho 4. the beginning with Henry Thomas and Anthony Perkins. So yeah, and Olivia Hussey was in that one too.
Olivia Hussey for Romeo and Juliet. Well, if we're just going to talk about that Bates Motel, kids, if you've never seen that series, you got to watch Bates. It is amazing.
Is there a crazy aunt who's the real mother of Norman Bates?
No, because this is little Norman Bates, who is the guy who's the doctor, who's
right, the
autistic,
good doctor, or whatever he is.
the good doctor. So he's young, and Vera Farmiga is his mother, and he has some crazy brother. So this is like, it takes place in like Oregon or Washington or something.
Yeah, they're changing the lore. And
They're changing the lore, but it's great because you're not really sure. Is it mom? Is it the son? And he has a brother who's like the normal one, and he's like, "What the is happening between the two of them?" It's amazing. And speaking of Psycho, I watched Psycho 2 weeks ago, and there's a nod to Psycho and Maxine. They're in front of the Bates Motel.
Is there really?
They're at the Bates Motel. They see the Bates house. All kinds of
love
stuff.
Psycho. Psycho's great.
Love Psycho.
One thing I wanted to say before we move on from this is Psycho 3 stars our old friend Jeff Fahey. So there you have that to look forward to one day. I don't know how shirtless he is, but I'm sure he has that hairstyle. So
does he have? Is he rocking his bootay in this one too?
He probably. It has Jeff Fahey and it has Christina from Mommy Dearest. So it's an all-star cast.
I just watched the documentary about Faye Dunaway, and that was one of the people that was talking. You immediately recognize her.
Oh yeah, totally.
But it's little.
Any last thoughts on Psycho 2?
Not as bad as you think.
Not as bad as you think. I think that's a safe way to put it. It's not brilliant. It's not amazing. It's pretty good.
I watched most of it. Yeah.
I watched most of it. Let's go behind the scenes, shall we?
We shall.
The reflection of young Norman Bates in the doorknob when he flashes back to his mother's poisoning is Anthony Perkins' son, Oz Perkins. There you go.
Who later went on to
direct Longlegs. The original house set was used and the motel was reconstructed. And this was all done on the Universal backlot. Like the scene where Robert Loggia is
I can't believe they didn't have the motel. That's shocking to me that they only kept the Psycho house.
Right.
But I mean, it's been a long time since I've been at Universal Studios.
Well, it's there now. Now it's everything is still there.
No, I mean the motel.
Right. No, I mean for a while there it was just the house.
Now.
Yes. Right. After they reconstructed it, they left it. And the street where Robert Loggia is following Meg Tilly is like their Times Square, the clock tower center area that you usually see on the tour from like Back to the Future and places like that.
Yeah.
So there you go. They originally suggested Jamie Lee Curtis to play Mary Loomis, but she had a scheduling conflict and did not want to go to the
Meg Tilly did a fine job.
She was fine, although I found it hard to believe that she was Vera Miles' daughter, as they look nothing remotely alike at all.
Alike. With her jet black hair, yeah.
Well, it was like jet black, and it was in the kind of Carol Brady style, where it's like short, and then a little something down at the bottom.
It was more of a Dorothy Hamill, I think.
Yep. Meg Tilly was never allowed to watch any sort of television as a child, so she had never seen the original Psycho and was unaware of its significance. She didn't understand why the press was giving all the attention to Anthony Perkins for his comeback role in the sequel. And one day on the set, Perkins overheard her say, "Why is Tony getting all the attention?" Perkins was upset, didn't talk to her during filming, and recommended she be replaced, even though half her scenes had already been shot.
Woo!
Boom. When Anthony Perkins was ambivalent about a sequel and leaning towards passing on returning to play it, rumors flew that Christopher Walken was going to be cast in the lead role, and the sequel would be a television movie event. However, Perkins agreed to star in the sequel, and then it became obviously a big hit. It finished number 2 in the box office behind Return of the Jedi when it opened.
Oh my God.
It's something.
That's because nobody else bothered to release a movie the same week as Return of the Jedi.
It's bold. It's bold. Meg Tilly's expressed that her worst film experience was working with Anthony Perkins and director Richard Franklin on Psycho 2, saying they were both very difficult to work with. So there you go.
Well, after she's talking shit about everybody, maybe that's it.
Why aren't they looking at me? John Garvin, who played Sam Loomis in the original, did not appear in this one. He was alive, but he was Ronald Reagan's ambassador to somewhere. So he was busy. So I couldn't do it. So very sad.
Are you saying that he was asked, but he was like, I'm the ambassador to Ghana or something?
He said, count me out. Quentin Tarantino has stated this is one of his favorite films and that he prefers this to Psycho. Boom.
He's out of his fucking mind. That's the craziest thing I ever heard.
That's what he said. He said this is awesome.
He just says shit.
he also said that this is Anthony Perkins' best performance is in this one. So there you go.
No.
Disagree.
Sometimes it looks like Anthony Perkins is about to laugh a couple of times.
He definitely, there's a twitchy quality to him. I will say that. When they were talking about doing the sequel, writer Tom Holland, who went on to become a famous horror director himself, and director Richard Franklin and Universal Pictures approached Patricia Hitchcock, the daughter of Alfred Hitchcock, and asked her, what do you think of this? And sent her a copy of the script and said, he would have loved this, is what she says.
Because she was in the original Psycho.
Who was she in the original Psycho?
She was the girl in the office who was getting married and was talking nonstop.
Richard Franklin was the director. He is known for... Hang on. He is known for Hotel Sorrento in 1995, Patrick in 1978, Link, another movie about monkeys in 1986, and he produced the
Lancelot Link Secret Chimp?
That's the one! And he produced Blue Lagoon in 1980. I talked about Tom Holland wrote the script. You know him from such things as Fright Night, Child's Play, Psycho 2. He played Deputy Norris as well as the writer. So he directed Child's Play and Fright Night. How about that? That's not too bad.
There we go.
That's something.
People seem to like those.
People do. Anthony Perkins
Not me,
played...
but other people.
Anthony Perkins played Norman Bates. You know him from Psycho, Psycho 2, Psycho 3, The Black Hole in 1979, Dr. Alex Durant, and a million other things. Any highlights you want to mention from his filmography that you love?
All I remember, I know he's been in a bunch of stuff. Like, he's won a lot of awards. He was on Broadway. I think he either was nominated for a Tony or he won a Tony. But I do remember when he was younger, he was beautiful. I remember Tall Story with his his brown eyes and his long eyelashes. Even at the beginning of Psycho, before you realize how crazy he is, he's not an unattractive person.
Not at all. He's great. Let's see. Vera Miles played Lila. You know her from such things as The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance in 1962, Psycho, 1960, The Searchers with John Wayne in 1956, The Wrong Man in 1956, and I'm sure countless other things.
Yes. No, Vera Miles was a real person.
She's a real person. Meg Tilly played Mary. You know her from such things as The Big Chill in 1983.
Yep.
Agnes of God in 1985.
I saw Agnes of God. That was good.
Psycho 2, 1983. And she was in Body Snatchers, no, not that one, in 1993.
No, not that one.
Yep.
There was one in 93. Which one was that?
It was called Body Snatchers, and I think it starred like Gabrielle Anwar. Every 10 or 15 years, they do like a remake.
This is not the Donald Sutherland one.
No.
That's a shame. That's a
is a
shame.
shame.
That's a good one, too.
Robert
all the Body
Loggia.
Snatchers. Oh, yes. He's been in
Robert
stuff.
Loggia played Dr. Raymond. You know him from such things as Big. He played Macmillan, the head of Macmillan Toys. He was in Independence Day in 1996. Lost Highway, 1997. That's one of your David Lynch movies.
My David Lynch, yes.
And he was Frank Lopez in 1983's Scarface.
I hate
But
Scarface.
he's been a ton. He was in Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. He's done all sorts of stuff.
Scarface is a terrible movie, and I don't know why boys love it.
Dennis Franz played Toomey. You know him from 261 episodes of NYPD Blue, playing Detective Andy Sipowicz. He was in City of Angels in 1998, which was a remake of. It was a remake of what?
Wings of Desire.
Wings of Desire. Very good. He was Carmine Lorenzo in Die Hard 2 in 1990. And, of course, in 1980, he was Detective Marino in Dress to Kill. Boom.
Dude, if Dennis Franz is there, I am there.
I agree. I make fun of him.
Like Tilda Swinton. If she's there, I'm there. Now, if we get the two of them together in a film, could be
now
something magical.
Let's look at the ratings, shall we? Psycho 2, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, 62%. Do you know what the fans gave it?
71.
62%.
Ooh, a tie.
A tie. Let's look at the top critics, shall we? Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times says, "It is a craftsman-like piece of filmmaking with a suitably flaky performance by Perkins, but it isn't really a sequel to Psycho. It continues the story, but not the spell." 2.5 out of 4. That's considered a rotten review. Vincent Canby of the New York Times says that it's about as chilly a movie as ever. Delighted the mass market is beside the point, in view of its exuberantly macabre craftsmanship. Okay, that's 3 out of 5. It's a lot of word salad sometimes.
It's a word salad. It's a lot of jib jab. So I'm gonna tell you straight. It was a kind of crappy performance. He had like vacant eyes. Clearly, they hated each other. But I still kind of like the movie.
That's fair.
I am not going to give it. I'm going to give it a higher rating. It's more like a C. They're giving it a D. I'm like it's a solid C, just like my GPA in high school. I'm going to give it 3 longing looks from Tony Perkins out of 5.
That's a D, by the way. That's 60%.
Then I'm going to give it a 3.5.
3.5. I would say it's a 3.5 as well.
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining. It's kind of funny. It's not particularly scary at all.
Right.
I enjoyed it. I don't know. could a normal person have predicted who the real killer was? You know what I mean?
did not. I knew it was somebody else. I didn't do, but you post yourself as not a normal person.
I do.
You're Megamind because you cracked the code.
Well, I think I went in knowing that Mary was involved in trying to make him crazy. Like, I think I knew people were trying to make him crazy and that she was in on it somehow.
I literally forgot that I ever saw it until I started watching it. And then it brought me no memories.
Right. So then it was like, so who's really doing the murder? I mean, I couldn't believe that it was Mary and her mother were actually murdering people to try to frame. That would have been a bridge too far.
Because that would mean they're going to be in the asylum right next to Norman.
Right. We're going to murder a bunch of innocent people and frame you for it, Norman, because you're a menace. That makes no sense. So I thought it was pretty good. It was what I would say about it. You could do worse.
It's like a parody. If you look at it like a parody of Psycho, because Psycho is solid. I mean,
Psycho's
there's
dynamite.
nothing on that film that doesn't need to be in there. So this is more like a parody. So it's kind of goofy. It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
You can watch
I always say
Tony Perkins doing the weirdest acting job you ever saw in your life.
I always say, if you've never seen Psycho, the problem with Psycho now is that everybody knows Norman Bates is the killer.
Right.
If you're able to go into Psycho cold, it will knock your socks off. I mean, it's dynamite regardless, but if you don't know he's the killer, it is a shocking reveal. It truly is because of his performance. His performance in that movie is so good.
There's nothing wrong with that movie. There's nothing wrong. My favorite part at the end when Norman's talking all like thinking about his mom and
yes,
Yoshi, I couldn't hurt a fly. Then at the last second, they superimpose a skull over his face, and then you see them pulling cars out of the thing. But like for 1 second, they superimpose a skull over his face. I mean, it is an amazing piece of cinema.
Well, and it's kind of like I compare it to From Dusk Till Dawn in the sense that it's almost like two movies, right? There's the first half of the movie where it's Marion Crane. We're going to talk about Psycho for the next 4 hours. Marion Crane it's basically she's stolen some money and she's on the run. So there's tension about.
She wants to be with her boyfriend, but he's divorced and he can't afford. He's living in the back of a store. He's trying to get the business. All his money's going to his ex-wife, and she's like, but she's got the Jimmy, man. She got to get more of that good love. She got to have it. The girl can't stop. So she has an opportunity to grab to grab 40 G. And then makes a run for it, and then kind of comes to her senses.
Right.
Too late.
Right. She's stolen the money. Every time a cop drives by, there's tension. Oh my God, is she going to get caught? She's like, comes to her senses. But she's like, it's too late in the day for me to drive back today. So I'm going to stop at this roadside motel for the night, and then I'll go back tomorrow. I'll return the money. I'll admit what I did. But she picks the wrong place to stay in. And that's like 45 minutes of the movie is just, we don't even see Norman Bates. We don't see the Bates Motel until well into the movie.
Right.
So it is a masterpiece. It's a goddamn masterpiece. We'll do it sometime.
Yeah.
No question. Any last thoughts before we move on with our lives?
No, my friend.
So thank you very much. Go to our pages across social media. We're on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, TikTok. You may be watching us on YouTube this very moment.
This very moment, goddammit.
You could also email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at
Gmail.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review, won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
I'm very social and I'm very media. So I am on the Instagram. I am the Cult of Aaron. Join the cult. I am on Artsy and First Dibs. Aaron Doherty. Check it out. Polaroid photography. Boop.
Boom, boom. As you know, we like to share questions, comments from our favorite social media homies. So, Aaron, I'm kicking it to you. What do we got?
Fester Trim from the Cannibal Holocaust podcast wrote in to say that he agrees with me that, what was it? Event Horizon was a bag of dog do. And I thank you, Fester. We also have Agatha Brickrock, excuse me. Pardon me, Agatha. She's writing in to tell me to tell Kevin once again that the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo got nothing to say to you because that movie's amazing. Boom.
What movie would that be?
That
Agatha?
would be The Forbidden Zone, my friend.
Interesting.
If it's good enough, if the music's good enough to be on Dr. Demento back in the day, it's good. Should be good enough for you.
Should be good enough for anybody. Now, can I listen to the Cannibal Holocaust podcast? They just talk about the same movie over and over again every week.
The nuances of it.
Interesting.
Behind the scenes.
The subtext.
They go shot by shot. Oh, it's a whole thing.
Interesting.
It's amazing. This is their 5th year.
I believe it. Next week, we're going to be discussing the horror classic, horror comedy, drama, romance classic, some might argue.
All you need to know is Tilda Swinton is in it.
The Jim Jarmusch film, Only Lovers Left Alive from 2013. If you want to watch it, you can stream it on Paramount Plus or Showtime if you have those subscriptions. Otherwise, you got to pay full freight from any of a number of places. Amazon Prime, YouTube, Apple TV, Vudu, although it's not called Vudu anymore. Fandango to go or whatever the hell it's called.
I can't keep track of stuff. I said to someone, hey, you need to watch this on HBO. She's like, I don't have HBO. I'm like, oh, what do you have? She's like, I have Max. I was like, what?
You told her to shut her mouth. Shut your
mouth.
mouth.
Hole.
So check that out. Send any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, questions, and comments, and we may talk about it on the show. So thank you very much, and be well.
I say good day.